Most people remember the Supremes with the original members Florence Ballard, Mary Wilson, and Diana Ross, and later on, Cindy Birdsong joined the group when Florence Ballard left. However, who are Jean Terrell, Linda Laurence, Sherrie Payne, Susaye Greene? If you want to know, stay tuned because they too were supreme. So let's jump ahead a little bit to the 1980s, to one of my favorite girl groups of that decade, and that is Bananarama. I absolutely love this group. I would collect all their albums, and I remember going out to purchase their greatest hits collection. I actually had the cassette at the time, and this is it here, the CD version. And the group is actually going through something similar that the Supremes went through, and that is they lost a member. Siobhan Fahey was leaving the group. They were getting the new member, Jackie O'Sullivan, in. Very similar to what happened to the Supremes in the mid-60s when they actually let go Florence Ballard and they brought in Cindy Birdsong. So that was happening, and on this Greatest Hits album, they had a song that they wanted to release as a single. The song was originally recorded with Siobhan on their Wow album, and it was a song called Nathan Jones. And I noticed looking at the album lyrics and credits that it was one of the few songs that either Stock Aitken and Waterman, their producers, didn't write, and neither of the girls wrote it. It was a cover. Apparently it was a Motown cover. I'd never heard of it before, called Nathan Jones, and I love the song. When it came time to doing their Greatest Hits album, they re-recorded the song with new vocals, with their new member Jackie, and in it, I remember reading the liner notes to the cassette, and I was super confused. Because at that point in time, I absolutely loved the Supremes. I love that group. I love Bananarama. I love girl groups. I love Motown. And I went out and I bought these sort of two cassettes, which is sort of an anthology of Diana Ross and the Supremes. And I knew all the hits. There was even some songs here I'd never heard of before. But when I read the liner notes to the Bananarama Greatest Hits album, it said that it was a cover of a Supreme song, but it was less known because the famous Miss Diana Ross didn't sing on it. I was very confused. Did not understand how Diana Ross could have not sung on a Supreme song, because as far as I knew, she was the lead singer. When she left, that was it, but not true. Nathan Jones was an old song that was done during, I guess, 1972, and the lead singer was Jean Terrell. And that song went up to, I think in the US it was like number 16, it was a top 20 hit, but in the UK it was a top 5 smash. A lot of people knew the song, and Bananarama decided to record it. So that's how I figured out, wait a minute, what is going on here? What is this era? What's going on? And I kept doing some more research, found this album at one point, this really cool CD, which has about 20 tracks, called The Supreme 70's, Greatest Hits and Rare Classics. And that's when I discovered this huge treasure trove of absolutely incredible music, just as good as their hits were back in the 60s. Yes, these weren't huge hits, these didn't go to number one, but absolutely incredible music that most people don't know about. A lot of the albums are out of print, and that was it, the 1970s Supremes. So what had happened is that Mary Wilson and Cindy Birdsong continued on, and them, along with Berry Gordy, was looking for a lead singer. I think Berry Gordy had other singers in mind. I think he wanted Sarita Wright, if I'm not mistaken. And Mary was really championing Jean Terrell. Jean was a gospel singer. I believe her father was a pastor, and she sang in the church. And she has this absolutely incredible voice. So eventually she was chosen, and she became the lead singer, as well as actually on a lot of their albums they released in the 70s, it wasn't just Jean that was singing or the lead singer. Mary Wilson would get solo cuts, Cindy Birdsong would get some verses and stuff too. It was a lot more sort of cohesive and not just sort of one singer, but Jean did do the majority of the singing for the first few albums. And actually, the 1970s Supreme had bigger hits than Diana Ross's first solo singles. So this was the first album released, the album called Right On. And this is an incredible album, absolutely great album. The first single went top 10. It went to number 10, Up the Ladder to the Roof. And I knew it kind of sounded familiar, the melody, I sort of knew it. I guess I've sort of heard it somewhere before. Absolutely great track. And if you've never heard Everybody's Got the Right to Love. This wasn't a huge hit. I think it went to number 21, somewhere around there on the Hot 100. It's an absolutely great song. I think it would make a great LGBT anthem. Beautifully written, great track, and it's absolutely great album. This is it, Right On, with Jean Terrell. We have Cindy Birdsong, and of course Mary Wilson's here. Their second release is a vinyl I still have to acquire, and that is the album New Ways But Love Stays. And that album produced their biggest hit single, post Diana Ross, with the song Stone Love. It went all the way up to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a number 1 smash on the R&B charts. And in England, it also went up all the way to number 1. And I believe in the UK, the 1970s Supremes lineup was actually bigger there than in the US. So that was another big hit for them. The third album, which is another one of my favorites, is their album called Touch. And this is the album which contains Nathan Jones, which was the song that Bananarama recorded in 1988-87, which made me discover this whole treasure trove of albums. Great album. Starts off with This Is the Story. There's Nathan Jones. The other single they had was the title track Touch. Check this out. Another interesting thing is that Elton John here, this album was released, I believe, in 1972, and Elton John did the liner notes in here, praising the Supremes. Very cool. That was kind of the beginning of his career, and it was an honor for him to actually do that. So this is it, the second album, Touch. The third one, and this album is fantastic. So at that point, they decided at Motown they wanted Smokey Robinson to write and produce an album for the three girls. And if you've never checked this out, go check it out. The album is called Floyd Joy by the Supremes, and it is entirely either written or co-written by Smokey Robinson. He produces the whole album. It's one of their most cohesive albums. Absolutely love this. They had 2 top 10 hits in the UK with this, and which is the songs Floyd Joy and Automatically Sunshine. Go check it out. This is really Motown at its best. Another cool track, which I think was a single, is Your Wonderful Sweet Love. Absolutely incredible album. Really cool. An interesting side note to this is that while Cindy Birdsong did record this album with Jean and Mary, she became pregnant and she couldn't sort of continue with them, so they had to replace her. I think not just on the tour, but on the album cover, it's not actually Cindy, but it is Linda Laurence. And that is where Linda Laurence comes in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but there's actually altogether 8 people whose names are associated with the Supremes. And here is the next one in the chapter, and that's Linda Laurence. She only stayed with the group about a year or so, about a year and a half. So she's on the cover to this album. She sang with them, and then she moves on to the next album. And the next album is the last album in sort of this era, which a lot of people call the Jean Terrell Era. It is the last album where Jean Terrell sings with the Supremes. And it's actually a cult classic sort of album for the fans. It's the Supremes, produced and arranged by the famous Jimmy Webb. A lot of people absolutely love this album. I would have to suggest that if you're going to start looking into the 1970s Supremes, you want to see what it's about, I wouldn't go and getting this album right away, the first album. It's very different to all the other material. Very interesting album, very cool. A bit more, I guess, rock adult oriented as opposed to sort of like R&B or funk or disco, which is the next era. But a very cool album. It's actually Jean Terrell's favorite album she did with them. And this is the one album that Linda Laurence has her vocals on because Cindy did not come back to the group at this point. And this is it. It's the Supremes, produced and arranged by Jimmy Webb. And there you go. There was one last song that Jean recorded with the group. They were going to go on and do a new album, and Stevie Wonder was supposed to be involved with it. And he only did one single, and it's a song called Bad Weather. Go check it out. I don't know how this song wasn't a huge hit. I don't even think the song made it to the top 40. I'm pretty sure it didn't. Absolutely incredible track. The last thing that she did, it was released as a single, and you can get it on different Supremes compilations and stuff. Very cool. So that was it. At that point, I don't think they knew what was going to happen, and they lost Jean. But Mary Wilson was determined. Barry Gordy wasn't very much, I guess, into the day-to-day routines with the Supremes. He was busy working on films with Diana Ross. I think he was doing Mahogany and Lady Sings the Blues. And pretty much Mary Wilson is the one. She's the one who kept the Supremes alive from 1970 to 77 when Diana left. And she decided she was going to find herself another singer and another lead singer. Mary Wilson was quite capable of singing lead, and she does on quite a few tracks, actually. There's a track, I think she does A Heart of Mine, one of the Smokey Robinson songs actually on here, and she shares lead vocals on Nathan Jones and Automatically Sunshine. However, she wasn't confident on being the lead singer the entire time, so she goes out looking for somebody, and one of her best friends was Sherrie Payne. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because she was the singer that had the huge hit Band of Gold. It's a huge song, which was covered by Belinda Carlisle and a lot of other people. Love the song Band of Gold. And Frida says, what about my sister Sherrie Payne? And that was it. The next lead singer of the Supremes is the absolutely incredible vocalist Sherrie Payne. And on a side note, you might remember that in the year, I believe it was the year 2000, they were trying to reunite the Supremes. Diana Ross wanted to do the Return to Love tour. She wanted Mary Wilson and Cindy Birdsong to join her. And there was a lot of controversy. Things didn't work out. And the other two girls said no. And Mary went ahead and hired Sherrie Payne, who is right now at this point in 1973, becomes the new lead singer of the Supremes. And Linda Laurence, who was just a member recently, just a year before that. So they were the two girls that actually toured with Diana Ross. I know a lot of people were saying it was the fake Supremes, and yes, it didn't have Mary Wilson, who's one of the original members, or Cindy Birdsong that sang all the big hits, but it did have two girls that did tour with the group for many years afterwards and sang the songs as well. Not the same voices, but those were the two. So the Sherrie Payne years are like what I guess most people call the disco years. The earlier stuff with Jean Terrell, if you like kind of the old Motown sound, the Smokey Robinson sound, those are the albums you want to go seek out. They're absolutely fabulous. But then we turn into 1973, 74, 75, and you get these absolutely fabulous dance disco tracks from the Supremes and albums. They only did 3 albums with Sherrie, and you have to go check them out. They're absolutely incredible. The first album is actually, I think it's probably my favorite album post Diana Ross. I don't actually physically have the vinyl, but the album is just called The Supremes. I hate it when they self-title albums. It's very confusing when you're looking on the web and you go, you want that Supremes album? Which one? It's just called The Supremes. There's no other title. And while it's one of my favorite albums, it's actually my least favorite album cover. There are so many glamorous photos of the Supremes from that era, from every era. I don't quite get this album cover. It's kind of like slightly out of focus. One of the girls looks kind of bored in it. I don't know why they use it as the cover, but anyways, but it's just called The Supremes. And at this point, Linda and Jean had left. They didn't like the direction it was going. I think Linda wanted to start a family. So they got Sherrie, and then Mary decided to bring back Cindy because all the fans loved Cindy Birdsong. So they were put together, and I think to this day, Mary Wilson said it was one of her favorite combinations of the group. Very cool. And that first album is absolutely incredible. He's My Man, one of my favorite songs, a lost classic from the disco era. If you've never heard He's My Man, go check it out. There's an extended version. I believe it charted onto the disco charts as well. It was I think it was a minor top 40. Actually, I'm not sure. I have to go check that out. But there's He's My Man. There's Color My World Blue. Excellent, excellent song. It's All Been Said Before, which was supposed to be the debut single, and they retracted it and then released He's My Man. This Is Why I Believe in You, which, oh my God, Sherrie, Mary, and Cindy just take it to the church with that song. Absolutely incredible album. Go check it out, just called The Supremes. So for the second album, with the lineup of Sherrie Payne, Mary Wilson, and Cindy Birdsong, was the album High Energy. And again, another shift was happening within the Supremes. Cindy Birdsong felt kind of a bit burnt out and decided she was going to leave the group. That was it. So they went along and they hired the final member, the final person who could call herself a Supreme, and that is the absolutely incredible Susaye Greene. Another petite lady, kind of like Sherrie Payne, but this absolutely incredible sort of soprano voice. Oh my God. The album was actually completed with Cindy. She sang on all the tracks. Her voice is still there. But what they did, since Susaye was going to join them on the tour and be an official member, is they added her voice to the first two tracks, the title track, High Energy, which is a hit on the National Dance Chart, and to the first single, I'm Gonna Let My Heart Do the Walking. If you've never heard that song, go check it out. There's live performances of them doing that. I think it's one of the biggest lost disco classics ever. It was also the Supremes' last top 40 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to number 40. So sort of a minor hit. Absolutely incredible song. Another incredible album, High Energy. There was a lot of like remixes and extended versions of some of the songs. Go check it out. And then the final album, the 8th album, is another album that I absolutely love, and that is this one here, and it is called Mary, Sherrie, and Susaye. There we go. And this was to be the last album, 1976-77. And there's a lot of tracks here that were written or produced by Holland Dozier Holland, who produced some of their original hits. Go check out You're My Driving Wheel, one of my favorite tracks, Let Yourself Go. Super cool dance floor track, Come Into My Life. Go check this out, Mary, Sherrie, and Susaye. And before I was talking about album covers, well, this is one of my favorite Supremes album cover. I think it is an absolute classic cover. And if it looks a little bit familiar to you, like maybe you've seen this album cover before, that's because it was the inspiration to Destiny's Child's final album, Destiny Fulfilled. They used that as an inspiration for this, for their cover. So that's it for the studio albums. They actually had 8 studio albums post Diana Ross. They had 5 with Jean Terrell, 3 with Sherrie Payne and Susaye Greene. In Europe, they had a lot of greatest hits. I was actually shopping in, I forget where I got these, in Amsterdam a few years ago, and I got this really cool greatest hits. And the cover to this, actually they reused this cover. This cover was actually used for a live concert set that was put out, I think only in Japan. And then it was, they pulled it right off the shelves right away. They took it back. I don't know why. It's very rare. I don't have that album, but I do have, they reused the cover for this greatest hits. And then I found this absolutely incredible find in Amsterdam, and this is the Supremes. It is like, I think 20 of their best hits from the 1970s. And something interesting about this, and see if I can do a close-up. This album had a little sticker on it when I found it. It was like 15 euros, and it said signed by the Supremes. And I'll do a scan and I'll post it up there like I usually do with all the other pictures. And it has Mary Wilson's signature, and it looks like her signature. But on the cover, it's actually, you can see we have here is Sherrie Payne and Susaye Greene, so the final lineup of the Supremes. But when I looked at the signatures, it's not their signatures. The signatures look like it says Karen. One looks like it says Karen Jackson, and the other one was kind of unreadable. And I did some research, and these two singers actually exist. In 1977, what was supposed to happen, actually, is the Supremes were supposed to continue with Sherrie and Susaye. Motown had decided they would let them still go on. Both of them were songwriters, and Mary wasn't too sure, but she kind of felt that she kind of owed Sherrie and that to keep going. And then it was finally decided that Mary Wilson would own the name, the Supremes, and that at that point her and Berry Gordy decided that with no original member it would stop. And Sherrie and Susaye did their own album. All the music that they had written for that went onto their own album. It was called Partners, and that was released, I believe, in 1979. And what happened after that is Mary Wilson started touring on her own, and I think she had some dates she had to cover that she had already booked kind of as the Supremes. And what she did is she hired 2 backup singers. And those 2 backup singers, both their names are Karen. One is Karen Jackson, and the other one is like Karen with, I think, 2 A's. Raglan, something like that. And they toured with her. They were on album posters. And I actually believe these are real signatures. I don't think they're fake. I think what happened is that a fan went to one of those concerts in, I believe, I don't know if it was like 78 or 1979, saw Mary Wilson with the two other singers that sang with her, and they signed the album cover, and they signed next to Scherrie and Susaye. So this is an absolutely sort of treasure find. I don't know who went to the show originally and whose record it was, but I hope you had a good time, and thank you. This is just absolutely so cool. So that's it. If you have never heard of the 1970s Supremes, go discover them. You can see them on YouTube. You can find them. All the stuff is available digital. Actually, two of the best items that they released, unfortunately, these are out of print. But in 2006, they released a hardcover book of the Jean Terrell years, 1970 to 1973. It comes in kind of like a book form, kind of like this one over here I have. But it is sold out. It was put out by, I believe, Hippo Select from Universal Motown. And in 2011, they put out this gorgeous book, which I got my hands on as soon as it came out. And it is the complete recordings from 1974 to 77, the Sherrie Payne years, Cindy Birdsong, Susaye Greene. It's absolutely a beautiful little booklet here. It has demos and all the extra tracks. However, because these are out of print and you can't find them, you can get all of this digitally on iTunes and other platforms. All the songs, all the bonus tracks, it's all there. If you don't care to have a physical copy, you can get that. If you do want something physical, there's, I think about, I don't know, there's about like 6 or 8 different compilations that are not very expensive, sort of CDs, on the Supreme 70 years, and I think I showed this earlier in the video. And this is just called the 70s Supremes. There's 20 tracks. If you can still find it, I think it came out in 1991. It's usually not very expensive if you find it in a used shop, and it's a great way for starting out. So that's it. I hope anybody out there, if you're a fan of the 1970s Supremes, let me know if you like any of the songs, if you're interested in it. Please let me know. I'm so sad that we lost Miss Mary Wilson. She's a treasure. I really believe Mary Wilson, Diana Ross, Florence Ballard, they paved the way. Berry Gordy, all the people from Motown paved the way for everything that happened afterwards. And, I'm sure Mary's up there with Florence and the others. And we miss you all. I would have loved to have had some sort of Supremes reunion. I would love to see Sherrie Payne and Susaye Greene and maybe even Cindy Birdsong or Jean Terrell, Linda Laurence, all of them tour. I know a lot of them in the 1980s actually toured as the former ladies of the Supremes, so Sherrie, Susaye, and I believe Joy Vincent, who's going to maybe would have been one of the Supremes if they would have let them continue on without Mary. Used to tour with them. It would be great if some of them could tour again. I'd love to hear from them. So that's about it. I always try to make short videos. It never works out, so I hope this isn't too long. Love you all, and let me know what you think. And I'm going to speak to you soon, so take it easy.